So I think to start with, most of our jurisdictions in our countries have a framework, a legal framework that assures citizens a certain reasonable expectation of privacy. This is fundamental and it's important that we preserve that, particularly if you think of CBDC within the context of being similar to cash at its fundamental level. In that regard, even though the technology introduction into the currency issuance regime allows for a certain depth of visibility, it is important that central banks and monetary authorities exercise restraint in that design. And it is fundamental to the design of CBDC and ensures adoption. I think to be fair, even as central banks discuss CBDC and the design element, you would notice the awkwardness of discussing privacy, because beyond being central bankers, we're also individuals and we're consumers. And I do not believe any of us would be comfortable if our retail level transactions are needlessly visible at the central bank level. There's no justification for that in most cases. Fortunately, the existing legal regimes also allows, in the instances of perhaps money laundering, crime, or anything else, the ability for an investigation to seek information on account holders' transactions from their service providers. So inherent in our CBDC design, the ECD in Ghana, was that fundamental principle that we try to balance privacy and anonymity with transparency and visibility, because at some level, especially at an aggregate level, you need the ability to see transaction, right? Transaction patterns, movements, volumes, not just from a policy perspective, but also for flagging AML issues. And when it comes to law enforcement, they are also able to do their work better because there is that capability to access information within the right context. So from a central bank perspective, we would be able to see the aggregate flows of transactions and values, etc. But we do not need to know what an account user is doing in the northeast part of the country, I don't know, buying airtime at 2 a.m. That's not something we need in policy decision making. So it is important that not only is this factored into the design, but it's also made very clear to the consuming public that the CBDC design that is being introduced ensures the preservation of privacy to a reasonable extent. And that is what gives the confidence for adoption to be possible. Otherwise, there will be the reality that consumers will not be comfortable with adopting CBDC, and our ultimate goals and objectives as central bank for introducing CBDC would be compromised. So it's a really good balance that we have to strike, and I think that's why most central banks and the conversation around CBDC is really taking account for that, and I'm glad to see that.